Hey everybody, welcome to the D&D Beyond Dev Update. My name is Joe Starr. I am the head making videos about elves, trolls, and sometimes gargoyles here at Phantom Tabletop and D&D Beyond. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. Honestly, very glad you're here. If you're new and you're watching live, hey, wave in chat so folks can say hey to you. If you're new and watching on YouTube, leave a comment below. Why not? Say hey to everybody. Meet somebody new. Reach out to each other. We're a community, after all. Um, hey, what are you watching right now? If you're new and you're like, I don't know what this is. So D&D Beyond is an official tool set that makes playing D&D so much easier. So if you've ever been interested in the game but felt overwhelmed by stacks of books and dice and stuff like that, D&D Beyond is, in my humble opinion, which is not at all biased, even though they sign my checks, the absolute best and easiest way to jump into playing the game. The dev update is our weekly check in. This is where we talk about what's new and what's coming. Today, we're going to walk through our roadmap pretty quickly. We've actually got a lot to dig into today. We're going to dig in with two of our devs, Brian Bartholomew, who's one of our senior software engineers, on our some updates we're making to our character shell app. And then handsome lad Pat Backman is back with some generic feature system updates. We want to start moving forward, give you guys sort of some monthly insight into what's going on with that process, what's working, what's not, what's making them pull their hair out, what's getting them really excited. I think it would be kind of cool to bring you guys along for the ride on that. So we're gonna make sure that they've got plenty of time to do that today. If you are looking for a list of updates, make sure to check out our changelog. They're linking it in chat, I think, maybe. And if you're watching on YouTube, it's linked in the description. Don't forget, we also run a monthly AMA with our devs in the forums. Same link blurb. It's either, depending on where you are in time right now, it's either over here ish or it's down there ish. Okay, so if you are live, strap in. If you're watching on YouTube, you know the drill, bro. Like, hit that like, smash that engagement for us, rock those bells, and let's jump right in. Okay, okay. All right, let's jump into our roadmap. So, again, I want to remind you all this is a living document. It is always updating, it's always evolving. There are even some updates and evolutions on this iteration that I'll catch you up on. It's a lot like a Digimon that way. So, March monthly perks. Today is your last chance. What's a monthly perk? Monthly perks are something we offer to our subscribers. Go check out on our website all the cool features that subscribers get, including sharing books with your pals, like in the olden days where you were the lone person who bought books and dragged them in your backpack to your friend's basement to play D&D. Perks are just sort of an extra little funsy we add on top of there. They change monthly. Today is your last month or your last day rather to claim March, and then we'll introduce April perks next week. Two books for pre-order, including I'm actually really excited about this book, Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. This is a adventure anthology book, similar in format to Candlekeep Mysteries, with a series of like loosely connected adventures, all centered around the same setting. I think this book's going to be really, really, really cool. Um, I try to stay spoiler free on adventure books myself because I like being able to play them, which makes it tough being in charge of marketing them to you. But I've dug into this a little bit. It's going to be a great book, so make sure you pre-order it. The content in here is very, very, very cool. The setting is very, very, very cool. Coming up, we've got a bunch of really cool mobile app updates coming soon. We'll actually have the mobile app team up in the next week or so to start digging into some of what those are. I think you guys are going to be very excited. If you haven't downloaded the mobile app yet, highly encourage you to. It gets better and better every week. Frankly, that team is really astonishing. Well done, y'all. It is your work is always incredibly appreciated. We also have some updates to your My Character page coming, as well as some accessibility changes. I'm grouping these together because these are moving back a little bit. Obviously, we don't give dates on D&D Beyond because giving specific dates on, you know, software and updates and sprints and stuff like that. Stuff happens daily that changes a million things on the schedule for these teams. But that is moving a little. These are both moving a little further in the year as the team sort of juggles some different priorities. But I do want to keep letting you know what those are. And I also want to give a side note because I do get this feedback often. Why are the same things featured on the dev update week to week? I have an answer for that. It sounds like a sort of a smart aleck answer. I don't intend it to be. It's just the truth. Because I have to assume that you watching right now are not the only person that watches the dev update. Um, Sorry, that's what I meant by it sounding sort of like a smart ass answer, which I don't mean it to. But I have to assume that today there are new people watching the dev update, which is why I do my long-winded introduction at the beginning, that have no idea what any of this is, and that this is my first opportunity to tell them about it. So that is why I've seen that feedback, and I just wanted to let you all know that's where my head's at regarding things like this. So, updates to the My Characters page. As players, we want to be able to look at the My Characters page in a way that is more interactive and more beneficial to gameplay. We've been getting a ton of feedback from you all. We collect all of your feedback. It goes into a giant bucket that the devs then start digging and sifting through our feedback forums. We've gotten a ton of feedback from you guys on the My Characters page, and as to what it should look like, what it should do, what it should accomplish, and some really cool changes are coming, along with accessibility changes, including screen reader improvements and dyslexia font support, which we're really stoked about. This team is really committed to improving accessibility this year, and I'm really proud of them for the work because sometimes that kind of stuff is really thankless, but they're really killing it on all fronts. So thank you, Jared and team. We've also got some game data listing updates coming. So this is referring to like under rules when we're looking up monsters and spells and magic items and stuff like that. This admittedly, this function on D&D Beyond is not currently great. So some fairly substantial changes are coming to make it much, much, much easier to navigate what you are trying to find. So changes there are coming. Like I said, cranking through the timeline this week to give our two devs plenty of time to join me. So let's bring them up now. Brian Bartholomew, who I might be your first dev update, at least under my regime, one of our senior software engineers, as well as please welcome back Pat, our one of our senior product managers and professional podcaster, to dig in with me. Hey, y'all.
Hey, yeah, he is a professional podcaster for sure.
And I
Absolutely.
think the emphasis on professional. Everything Pat does is
Yeah,
is pro,
So
and
yeah.
professional
I
that
just
I
really
forgot to click the unmute button when you turned me on. So,
Which is, I thought your podcast was just avant-garde when I listened to that 90 minutes of silence, but you just forgot to, you just keep forgetting to hit mute.
that's right.
Well, nicely done, sir. Well, I have, gentlemen, I have gathered you here for a purpose. Well, I don't want to dig in. I want you two to dig in, and I'm going to ask you questions from the role of moron who doesn't understand what you're saying. About the character shell app updates, and then I want to dig in a little bit to the generic feature system. And I think I micro machine manned through the timeline so fast that I think we can probably give about 10 minutes to both, if that sounds good to y'all.
Yeah, we can do that, or we can focus more on one or the other. Brian is definitely it's a great boon to have Brian here. No pun intended. Generic feature system.
No pun is
Two
intended. It is intended.
pun is very
And,
intended.
uh,
Ugh,
but having
I
him
feel
here,
blessed.
and being able to talk about the technical aspect specifically about this app shell stuff is massive for me because the way I was going to explain it would have left a lot of people wanting. So I'm just going to say it this way: the app shell being in place now for the character experience, all things characters, my characters page, your character, and the character builder makes it snappier. But what does snappier mean? So back to you, Brian. What does snappier mean? And what good is this doing for anybody?
Brian, define snap.
Yeah. What is snap? What does it mean that it's snappier? I think snap is a synonym for fast. Is that what it's faster? What does it mean that it's faster? Well, our views are no longer full page refreshes. So when you go from the listing of your character to the character sheet, it's not a whole page refresh and has to go to the server to request all the information and re-render, and that takes time for the browser to do. And if you're on a mobile device, it starts eating up your data. All of those refreshes are pulling in stuff. Some of it's cached, some of it's not. Caching being that like it stays on your device all the time, and so it kind of helps out with some of that stuff. And another thing is once you're on the character sheet and you're going back and forth between the builder and the character sheet, again, no full page refresh. So we start getting the benefit of quick changes back and forth between the builder and the sheet. And I think the result of this is that people are going to just level up more because it's faster. So you don't have to wait, a second for the character sheet to transition. You're just at the level up point. So I think lots of players are going to level up more. That's my hypothesis from this update: is lots of more leveling up. No,
Right.
no,
Ryan's wrong. They'll just when they do level up, it'll be a faster experience.
Okay, so you won't get through the cave any faster. The dungeon crawling is still going to take as long, but getting to the page will be faster so that you can, if you're a wizard, choose all those new spells. If you're any other class, I guess you're choosing some new features that are maybe choice based in the class. I think those things getting faster. Some enabling things that this does for us is I think in the intro, Joe, you mentioned that people are like, we want the character listing to look different and do all these other things. Well, previously, while it was possible to start doing those things, the architecture was kind of preventing us from moving quickly there. And so now that the character sheet, the character listing, and the builder piece are all together in one code base, we can start moving and iterating there a lot quicker and leveraging shared UI pieces. So now when you go from the character sheet to the character listing and back and forth, you won't see 5 different buttons. Okay, today you're going to see 5 different buttons. But in the future, those will start getting more succinct, and we'll start using those and be able to move and iterate faster. So we'll be able to incrementally add little differences a lot quicker. So when we talk about snappier, yes, your experience will be snappier, but hopefully the features that are rolling in also become snappier as we're able to iterate quicker there.
Which means we'll be quicker, right?
Yeah, we're going to be quicker.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
So that's kind of cool. Yeah, so there will be benefits sort of like on our end now that the architecture is sort of in place a little better, and this I guess looks like one Lego set that was boxed together as opposed to just the buckets, the giant bucket of miscellaneous brick system.
Yeah, that metaphor I think is actually worse than mine, Joe.
I only have Lego metaphors. That's all I have. I use them for everything. They were in my wedding vows. I don't know what to tell you.
No, they weren't. Oh, they were. I know they were. I need to hear this story. My metaphor was to the team because I'm like, I gotta brief this on the dev update, and I'm panicking. I'm like, Brian, please come with me. Was working on the character sheet yesterday was like working on your car with one tool bag in the driveway. Working on your character sheet today is like working on your car in a full service garage with a lift and all of the tools available to you. So, but that's still not a really good metaphor compared to what Brian said.
I was going to say, but you're a cyborg with car fixing fingers. But I kind of liked yours better.
Were there Edward any car fixing hands?
Edward car fixing
hands. Is that what it? I don't know. That was all I got. I'm out, guys. See ya.
Were there any? I guess. what were the sort of like the feedback that came in, whether it was external or internal, that really kind of kicked this off? Just out of
Yeah.
curiosity.
Uh, yeah. So, as with any good software, it starts out, in my opinion, scrappy. You have something that's in place, you leverage it, you get going, and you get going fast, right? And thankful so much for those scrappy days at D&D Beyond, because that allowed us to leverage a system that existed before to get the character sheet in its infancy up and going, right? So, we go
Mm,
back to the beginning, and well, not today, but as of yesterday or the day before, it's all a haze. Last week, the character sheet itself was still on that original architecture, which really was okay. It's not bad per se, but in the uh, past few years, my team that I'm on has migrated a lot of our data sources out of that infrastructure, but our front end was still there. And since then, we've migrated, this week, migrated the front end out. And it's a kind of a D&D initiative to move off of the older architecture into a newer architecture, simply because while it did get us going quickly because it was already built and we could leverage it, we're starting to find now that things are becoming more difficult, and there are things that are in some cases impossible for us to do there, just because of how things are um, orchestrated, even at the data
hmm
layer. So a lot of that leads into this GFS thing, this universal feature system, whatever the name's going to be, that Pat's still got to figure out, that we're going to talk about more. But it kind of leads into us prepping and moving away from that stuff, simply just to allow individual teams, I think, ultimately to be more to have more ownership in what they're doing and be more independent in getting their feature work done, and not being blocked or hindering other teams.
Right on, and very, very well said. And I think, unless you all sort of have any, final thoughts, things you want to talk about on the Shell app, bringing up the feature system is a nice way to transition into talking a little bit about the feature system.
Sure. Yeah. Let's go for it.
Cool. Well, so Pat, you've been on fairly recently to sort of give us a bit of a primer of what's coming. Sort of we've talked a little bit about the idea of the bullet and the experiment that is the generic feature system on here. And like we sort of mentioned earlier, I think it'd just be fun to start bringing people along for the ride on the pain and the glory, the successes and the failures, and just kind of see where we're at. It's a cool experiment. It's honestly really fun to just like, for me at least, because I like this kind of thing, to just kind of like sit back and kind of listen to where you all are at. So I leave it to you to wax poetic.
The reason I'm here today and Joe's invited me is because we had a meeting last week with a large portion of Joe's team, and the raptured faces as I spoke for a half an hour spawned this idea that you all would like to go on a development product journey with us as we experiment to decide how to get ourselves out of what we consider rules debt. The Dungeon Master's Guide has rules in it that still you can't do on your character sheet. And the player's handbook has rules in it that you still can't do on your character sheet. And Tasha's and all the things, right? Every book has some stuff. I just got out of a briefing yesterday about something that's coming down the pipe, and you can't.
Losing you just a little bit, Pat. But in the meantime, Brian and I will vamp.
Am I back?
Hey, you're back.
You're back.
So I was saying in this meeting, it was we go through a new piece of content, and then we label it that it's supported by our system, unsupported by our system, partially supported by our system. There's workarounds for our system, and those unsupported things are becoming less and less and less every bit that we do. But this generic feature system, the intent is for us to be able to build a, how do I say it? A data entry system that is designed for the folks that we have on the team that do the data entry, so that they don't even need to ask us for a form. They can just kind of create their own form to make these pieces. And as they make these pieces, the pieces will come in sections. Like one piece will just be the name of the thing. Another piece will just be the text that goes with the thing. Another piece will be the title of the name of the thing. So, a case in point, the title would be a blessing. The name would be blessing of health. The description would be increases your constitution by +2, no more than 22. That's all great. And then that, now that they've done that, it's in a database, and then our team can find a place to land that onto the character sheet. Once it's landed on the character sheet and searchable, then I can search up all of the blessings and add one of the blessings or any of the blessings to my character sheet, like you can with features. And then after that, the next step is to make that line of rules. The word we use is efficacious, or it has an effect on the character sheet, so that when it does get added, it'll put the +2 to the Constitution. Unless, of course, you have a 21 Constitution, then it'll only put +1 to your Constitution because you can't go over 22. That all said, it's going to come out in stages. So, first stage we're going to do is our, as Joe said, bullet, the tracer bullet, the one that's going to go through the whole process. It's going to get a tool set to add it into the database. It'll go through and add all the pieces to the database by the team that does that. We'll get feedback from them on the pain points of doing that and then tweak it. And then once it gets done with that, we'll see how it lands on the character sheet. We'll put it there. We'll look at it. We'll test it. And then it'll be, yay, part 1 of that's done. Then the next piece is, how do we make that calculation work? Part 2, then that's done. And then it's going to be, okay, do all the blessings. Get them all done. And then once all the blessings get done, we'll package that thing up and then we'll offer it out to you all. If you, in the next few months, see blessings end up on your character sheet in some capacity, or hear Joe advertising that, that means the tracer bullet worked. And we are then going to start working on other things. I think it was a comment by Nail Guy 101 just when we started the podcast. I just can't wait for boons and dark gifts. Amen. And that would be like something else that would come right after blessings. Then all of a sudden it's going to be, oh, boons and dark gifts. So we're going to stop talking about the generic feature system at that point. And we're going to just start talking about completing rules debt, getting rid of rules debt, servicing all these old rules by using this neat new system that allows non-engineers enter data in a way that engineers can mine and display to you as needed.
Right.
That's it in a nutshell. But the experiment is we haven't started doing any of it yet. And we're going to start that literally next sprint. The first lines of code, well, the first official lines of code, the team has been tinkering, will start to hit our environment next sprint. Our next sprint starts in a week and a half.
2 weeks. Yeah, we can have 2 weeks.
So, Brian, let me ask you this. We'll pretend Pat's not here for
Yeah.
a moment and, not judging everything we say and, like not writing a list of things he wants to get back at us for and, stuff like that. As we're sort of like prepping for that sprint, as we're writing up those first like fledgling lines of code, like obviously there are pain points you foresee and stuff like that, but I'd just love some insight on like at the beginning of that process, the like moments that kind of make you go like, "Ugh," and the moments where you're like, okay, this is actually going to be pretty cool.
Yeah. So I will say, I think it was probably roughly about 6 months ago, we had an opportunity to spend a couple sprints digging into the concept and playing around. And we made some pretty cool proof of concepts. We broke up individually in our teams and kind of tinkered around with ideas. And we all kind of rallied together and kind of came up with a solution. And we've had some opportunities to visit that occasionally since then. And so some of the beginner stuff that Pat was talking about, where we have a database and we have a place to do an entry form, like we kind of have that going. Um, I think I can go into the system right now if I wanted to and add a thing that's called a blessing, and then it has some description text. And if I went to edit it, then it would all break, because that's about as far as it gets. So we do have like some of the groundwork going for us, which is kind of exciting. Um, as far as being scary and like the gotchas, currently our whole system is driven by this chunk of code called the rules engine, and so it's an engine for rules. It takes all of our data structure and says your AC is 18. You have these actions. You can cast these spells. So if you're ever playing the game and something doesn't show up right, it's because the rules engine usually didn't process something correctly. It's never our back end devs; they're 100% on target. It's usually the front end team's rules engine that is like, oh, we messed something up there. So it's always us. You can always blame myself or Nathan or Julie if your character sheet isn't working correctly. We'll take the flack there. Nathan's like, no, stop it. But with that, with this transition into the system, the rules engine processes a very specific type of data. Um, I'm trying to think of like an analogy, but I feel like it's all going wrong, so I'll just stop.
It's Lego
With
related. It's either
analogies.
Lego or
Yeah,
Art
let's do
Hand.
Lego related. Lego's great. This is good. So, if you're familiar with Legos, there's the little Legos that most adults prefer to use, and then there's the bigger Legos that I, as an adult, prefer to use with my children, so they don't break my Death Star or whatever big thing I've built lately. Uh, the rules engine is the big Lego blocks. It does very specific shapes and things, and the generic feature system is the little Lego blocks. So we can, with the little Legos, build very complex and crazy things at scale and small. And we could technically probably get away with doing that with the big blocks, but it would be really big. We're talking like much larger models. But with this system, we have to figure out how to get the two Lego sets to play together. And that's where most of us are a little like, if we take AC, for example, AC is probably one of the more complicated rule sets because it's like, do this plus this, but oh, this other thing, take the higher, but unless you're wearing an armor, but then do this other thing. And it's just like, how do you computate all of that? And then when you have two systems computing that, one system says, well, my highest is 17. The other system says, well, my highest is 18 unless you're wearing armor, but the other system doesn't know if you're wearing armor. It all starts getting difficult. So figuring out how to get those two concepts to work together has been noodling around in our brains and trying to figure that out. And recently, we came up with a concept to. This was a shared concept. I'll give our mobile team most of the credit for coming up with the idea, and we've been working hard to implement it and build out the architecture. But we had a lot of duplicate code from our rules engine and our front end to what is on the mobile devices. Actually, they run the same rules engine, and so there was some duplicate code there, which isn't great. It usually means that if we make a change, they also have to go make a change, and that sucks. So we've been working at pulling that code over together into one spot that's called a manager. So, for example, we have an inventory manager that manages your inventory and manages your containers. And we have a container manager that manages a specific container and the items in it. And we have an item manager that manages the item. So those are all, if we talk about Lego pieces, those are slightly built up Lego pieces that build up into larger Lego pieces. And we found that this pattern of these managers managing the data from the rules engine is going to help us, we think, stitch data between this new we're going to probably start referencing it more as a game engine just because of all the things we're hoping to do with it, and the rules engine, and can create an output that is a super interactive character sheet that hopefully starts getting a lot of really cool live updates. Like, I don't know, when you are a bard and you inspire one of your teammates, their character sheet has little stars sparkling on it, being like, you're inspired. I don't know. Maybe stars is a bad thing. Maybe you're bardic that's like, no, I don't want stars, I want fire burning up on the bottom of my character sheet. I don't know what it is, but those are the things that eventually this game engine that we're migrating into and building for and with the generic system is going to allow us to do.
Mhm. And it also seems like that connects back to the updates you're making with the character shell, so that those communications can happen quickly and smoothly.
Yes,
I'm smart sometimes.
you're connecting those dots. I love it.
Every now and then, I win one. Well, gentlemen, we are up on time, but I wanted to give you, if there are any closing thoughts or anything like that. Otherwise, we will see you after this sprint, and I'm excited to see what happens.
I would
Yeah,
only have to say,
I have,
everybody, hold on to your butts because this is going to be really cool really soon.
yes. I would say if I won't get in trouble for just putting some personal stuff out there related to what I do on Twitch, am I going to get in trouble for that, Joe? I'll
I
stop
thought you
if
were
I
going to
do.
say your social security number and your mother's
Oh
maiden
no,
name, and I was like, no, those are bad
729.
things
No,
to
no,
say
no.
online.
So,
No.
so real quick, I can't promise that our company is going to be growing or hiring a whole bunch of people. But if you are interested in learning what we do from a tech stack perspective, regularly I stream on my own on Twitch, on Code Sagas. That's my handle for streaming. I teach people how to code, and I teach our stack. We use a thing called React. We use JavaScript, and I teach it. So if you're interested in learning what we do and potentially maybe getting yourself to a point where you can maybe get hired and come work on the character sheet with us and solve our problems with us. We always want more people that are excited about what we're doing and know what we're doing. So there's one place that you could maybe go look if you're like, oh, these dev updates are cool, but I don't know what the heck they're talking about. You can come hang out
It's
with
amazing.
me, every night and learn more. So
And
just throwing that
what's
out
your
there.
handle one more time?
Code Sagas.
Awesome. That
CODESAGAS.
That's
So
fantastic. I love it. We've got both sides of this. Pat sort of in the almost said philosophy, the philosophy of digital gaming, and then you just in the trenches teaching people to code. That's so cool. Hey, I appreciate the two of you being here. I know you're super busy. Um, we'll see the two of you after next sprint, and I want to thank y'all for being here as well. I know we went a little long today, but I don't think it gets more dev update than these two devs updating. Like, this is maybe the most dev update the show has been since I took over. So I hope you enjoyed a little more of a deep dive, a little more crunch, and we'll see y'all next week. Till then, be nice to each other. It's weird out there. Thanks, everybody.
It's D&D, D&D Beyond, yeah, D&D Beyond. You got your stats, you got your swords, and you got your invisible war. It's D&D